Hello again. It is Sherry, and I wasn't really in the mood to make any type of vlog, but I'm going to because for one, to help me sort of keep my goals organized. And so what I wanted to talk about today is partitioning of hard drives and USBs. People may be more likely to have be using USB devices, but the type of hard drive partitioning I'm talking about are external hard drives which use USB ports. So this is going to be a quick one. But what I'm seeing is, and one of the reasons I'm sharing this is because it really affects, I think, all of us. There was an issue with compatibility when people first started charging cell phones. And so a company that was cast off by AT&T called GoPhone, which became the pay-as-you-go or whatever, no contract phone, came out with a kind of a universal USB plug. I don't know if it was a driver or what, but whatever it was, it allowed Apple iPhones to charge and Androids to charge without having to use the software-specific USB. And basically what that did was just really make a big mess. I am not a fan of Go. I had it temporarily. I had a GoPhone plan, I think, temporarily after I had an AT&T contract that I decided not to keep because I was having some problems with it, which turns out to have been a lot closer to home than I thought. So I think a lot of security breaches are just like any other crime. It's more than likely a friend or a family member who initiates opening that door. Not always, but typically it's someone close enough to have physical access to a device, or possibly it wasn't malicious and they just don't maintain their computer or run their virus software. So if you're on a local area network with people or you're using other people's computers, you become vulnerable to how they're doing things. And one of the partitioning issues I was going to address has to do with a Linux distribution called Mint, which is a very good little operating system. It's light. It doesn't have a lot of extra crap on it. I think that's a little bit lighter than Ubuntu. But I'm trying to sort of bring together what this whole, I think it started with a vulnerability called Heartbleed. They call it Heartbleed. And a lot of people are not noticing when things happen that may not seem like a big deal, but they're a very big deal. For instance, if you have a little lock and you can still see color, if your vision's okay, sometimes I'll ask somebody, well, how is your vision? Because, the world is moving really fast and the eyes are very important. So to be able to detect little things like that lock turning from sort of a Kelly green to a lime green, that's a really big deal. That means that's not really secure. It's not really HTTPS if it's got a lime green lock. And I found that vulnerability in about 2011, I think. And I'm not sure. I think that it all started from a prior LastPass vault that I had, where I didn't officially get Heartbleed that I knew of, because typically, well, I may have, because I lost that entire vault. But it's a very serious vulnerability because of the way the internet is set up. So anyway, I'm seeing what I'm seeing is a lot of issues with Linux Mint, to no fault of their own. It's how you use the product, I think, that determines whether it becomes a liability for you or a vulnerability. So what I'm doing is all of my USB drives are messed up. And more than likely, I would say at least 98% of the people out there, your USB drives are messed up. The thumb drives, the pen drives, whatever you call them, that you put into your computer, because you have to write protect I think it's called the tip or the head. I'm going to try to look that one up real quick, but there's a little bit of space on every drive that can be corrupted. And if you don't write protect that little space, if you look at your drive and you're missing a few either gigabytes or you reformat an 8 gig thumb drive and it says let's just say 7.58, whatever, then there's definitely something on that USB that is not supposed to be there. And give me just a second here. And all of mine, and my SD cards as well. So, much to my annoyance, I have to fix every SD card I have, because if I go out and buy a new one, the same thing's going to happen. Each and every time I plug in anything with, I think it's well, there are many different types of USBs. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This, it's a very because you'd have to look on a site to see. Oh, okay, here we go. This is the size I'm talking about. And these come with a USB 3 and a USB 2, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is how it can be partitioned. So you could have a little hidden partition on there, which I'm sure you probably do. A lot of people, you know, I'll be like, I'm sensing and see. I'm not sensing. I'm seeing an actual security problem here, and I don't expect you to pay me, but your security affects my security, so I hope you listen to me. Like, I wouldn't want to end up doing a fundraiser that involved Jim Bakker. That would be, you know, that vulnerability would pass on to me. So, you know, if something like, you have to be really careful, you know, who you get involved with and how they're running their security, but it's all slop right now. So you really can't blame anyone, you know, that hasn't really committed a crime, and I'll tell you why. Because what they see on their end may not be what you're seeing on your end. I'm not sure how I've been able to maintain this, but I can see sort of the what's really going on as far as, let's say, the Treasury Department or the actual, you know, post office, as opposed to people who are just, you know, acting as if they are and literally mailing out fake, you know, stuff. If you get a government check, or if you have your bank account and you've got it set up on direct deposit or whatever, what you're seeing online, they'll try to hide it a little bit, but they're amateurs, really. They got the technology from someone who was not, but these perpetrators are amateurs. And if you just take a look back in your bank records, you might notice income that was already spent, but in the records, the amount of money that you made in a particular month could be reduced from what it actually was. So that is a huge problem. That means someone has gone in to years past and skimmed off money that doesn't exist because it was already spent when you paid your bills and everything. And that's not a whole nother ballgame. That's part of the problem. So I've been documenting this. It switched from being between being a vulnerability and a just a full out identity theft, virus, whatever. It basically encompasses everything. But what I'm seeing is that these USBs that have become hybridized so that you can charge your phone or something anywhere. They're messed up. I mean, let's see. I'm going to see if I can find I'm looking for the word where that little piece of your drive is partitioned off and has something corrupt in it. And I can tell you this is 100%. I've also talked to other people who specialize in Linux. Okay, this site doesn't really want to show me. Could take a while. You have to be very explicit sometimes with instructions, even in your speech. Things are gonna come to a head for a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people, I mean all of us. This isn't going to get better really fast, and I spend a lot of my time researching these vulnerabilities and sort of a security aspect. But okay, we got a squiggly little video here. In any version of Windows XP, of course that's not supported, onwards, run regedit. Okay, they're telling you to run regedit. Edit your registry for a storage device and storage device policies. This isn't getting any less complicated. And here we go with the D word, which I can't stand, but it's a very strong registry. So I'm just going to look up the anatomy of a USB drive because some of the people out there are technical and will appreciate and what I'm saying and already know that this exists. So bear with me for a second. If you're not really into the technical part, or you don't give a shit about your security, or you don't listen to people when they say, hey man, look, there's a problem, then you don't have to listen to this. USB on the go, right there. Alright, that word go, when it's in front of any kind of governmental website, if you see go dot something, don't go there. It's not accurate, and it's vulnerable. It's already been compromised in a big way. Okay, so let me just see if I can. Oh yeah, this isn't getting any better before it gets worse. Okay, so I see a lot of information here on the different device classes and connectors. USB on the go. Let's just focus on that one because that's the one that's not exactly what I was looking for. Okay, a master-slave USB. Now that's a whole other story, another corruption there. And the USB-C. Okay, here we go. I think it may be called the head, but I think I'm getting that mixed up with some operating system stuff. It's been a long time since I've actually used the word. I just know what it is. Looking at some compatibility stuff. Some non-standard and deprecated types. proprietary connectors, which they probably, I'm kind of wishing they would have stayed that way, because the corruption is now able to move from a Mac to a Linux to anything you plug that USB port or USB drive into. So any external hard drive, any thumb drive, any type B, type A, mini B, micro A, micro B. But I think most people are used to thinking of a USB as this. But really, a USB could be like a HMDI, a MIDI. Okay, I've gotten into some really technical information, and I want to keep this light enough for people who want to understand that there is a problem. But technical enough to nail down what that little part of that USB drive is that gets corrupted. Well, probably what I'll do, since this is taking a while, is I'll just make another video later. So what I'm doing this to wrap this up, what I'm doing is I'm talking about, get my water here, getting a little bit of a cold. Haven't been feeling real good, not feeling real good about myself. And I think that has to do with the fact that I just had a catastrophic computer failure, which is not uncommon for me because I've got so many people using my equipment and not A, being honest about it, and B, not compensating me for all my work. So I'm before I can even begin to think about, bringing in extra income for myself, I have to solve an enormous technical issue. And hopefully I'll be able to pass that on in a paid fashion to others who don't want to leave themselves vulnerable to identity theft or loss of data. So I'm going to wrap this up, and that's it. USBs, wondering why people are using Mint as a recovery drive, wondering why they're using SD cards, which they're also putting extra partitions on, just a little SD card. And that's a problem because then you get the smart cards and credentialing. So if somebody's got some credentialing issue going on with you, then they've basically got everything you have access to it. And there's been just the entire it's pretty bad. I'll just put it that way. It's pretty bad. All right, out.